Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
Well, welcome back to Dark Poutine. I'm Mike Brown.
And this is Matthew, not wearing headphones.
Matthew is not wearing headphones today, so he can't hear himself. Well, he can actually hear himself, but not in his headphones.
I can only hear it in my head.
Oh, God. I'm sure there's a lot of other things you hear in your head as well.
Oh, all kinds of things. Sometimes they slip out.
Ooh. That's bad when that happens when you're not intending it to. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Oh, no. Hopefully not in mixed company.
No, it's usually to myself.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And my husband points out I'm just mumbling at myself again.
Well, let's get on with mumbling to the listeners.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're two ordinary Canadian schmucks chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
The killings at Fox Hollow Farm are one of Indiana's darkest chapters. In the early 1990s, Herb Baumeister, a husband, father, and thrift store owner, lived a double life in the upscale suburb of Westfield. Behind the facade of Fox Hollow Farm, he is believed to have lured young men, mostly from local gay bars, to his home, where police later uncovered the remains of at least 25 victims scattered across the estate. Hundreds of burned and crushed bones were found by investigators, revealing years of concealed brutality. As the net closed in, Baumeister fled to Canada and took his own life at Pinery Provincial Park, leaving unanswered questions and devastated families in his wake. You are listening to Dark Poutine, episode 385, All That Remains, Horror at Fox Hollow Farm, Part 1. Telling the story of a serial killer case like what happened on Fox Hollow Farm in a single podcast episode is an immense challenge, especially when it comes to honoring the victims. That's why we're breaking this one into two pieces. The scale of this case is staggering. Investigators discovered more than 10,000 bones and fragments scattered across Fox Hollow Farm, evidence of possibly 25 or more lives lost. Many victims remain unidentified, their stories reduced to numbers and evidence tags, making it nearly impossible to give each the attention and dignity they deserve within a limited time frame. This sheer volume of tragedy means that for many, only the faintest details of who they were ever reach the public, leaving families and entire communities haunted by unanswered questions and the absence of justice. On the surface, Westfield, Indiana looked like a postcard. Acres of neat lawns and winding lanes, the kind of suburb where neighbors nodded to each other over mailboxes and kids darted through sprinkler arcs in the summer sun. In the early 1990s, this peace was shattered not by a dramatic event, but the slow unveiling of a hidden nightmare. At the sprawling Fox Hollow Farm estate, the facade of perfect normalcy concealed unfathomable horror. At the center of this story is Herbert Baumeister, a husband and father, business owner, and seemingly ordinary suburbanite. He ran a successful thrift store chain, Save-A-Lot, alongside his wife Julie. Baumeister's children went to local schools, and the family orchards and barns looked like an American dream fulfilled. Yet beneath this calm demeanor, Baumeister carefully masked a monstrous secret few could imagine. The truth would come to light not just in whispered rumors, but in the names and stories of those lost: Johnny Bayer, Jeff Allen Jones, Alan Wayne Broussard, Michael Kieran, Manuel Resendez, and many others, some yet unnamed. These were men with lives of their own, brothers, sons, friends, whose disappearances haunted Indianapolis's gay community for years. For each, a last night out, often at a bar like the 501 Club or Brothers, ended with a sudden vanishing. Baumeister expertly wore the cloak of respectability, hiding his crimes behind the manicured shrubs and friendly hellos of suburbia. The chilling reality was that he preyed on the vulnerable, luring men to his home, ending their lives and leaving families to wonder forever what happened. Herbert Richard Baumeister was born on April 7, 1947, in the Butler-Tarkington neighborhood of Indianapolis, Indiana. He was the eldest of 4 children in a household that, on the surface, looked every bit the image of post-war middle-class stability. His father, Dr. Herbert E. Baumeister, was a well-known anesthesiologist, and the family's growing prosperity soon allowed them to move into the more affluent Washington Township. Herbert's mother, Elizabeth, kept a busy household, managing Herb and his 3 younger siblings, Barbara, Brad, and Richard. Despite the comfortable setting, people later remembered strange undercurrents from Herbert's early days. According to authors Fanny Weinstein and Melinda Wilson, quote, "By the time he reached his adolescence, it became apparent that something about him wasn't quite right," end quote. A former school friend, Bill Donovan, recalled how Herbert would lapse into odd reveries, sometimes pondering disturbing questions like what it would be like to taste human urine. Ugh. Donovan described Baumeister as explosive and said he sometimes did things that unsettled even jaded teenagers. In one early episode, while walking to school, Herbert found a crow dead in the street. He stuck the bird in his pocket, carried it to school, and dropped it onto a teacher's desk when she wasn't looking. Such moments, equal parts prank and warning sign, set him apart from the other kids. Herb's father noticed this pattern of irresponsibility and unpredictable mood swings. With rising concern, he took the step of having his son undergo a battery of mental health examinations. These tests eventually resulted in a diagnosis of schizophrenia and what would now be likely called an antisocial personality disorder. There is, however, no record that Herbert received meaningful treatment. His life at this point showed a pattern that would continue for decades. A flare-up of concerning or troubling behavior, quickly swept under the rug or papered over by the family's reputation and resources.
You see what's happening here at a very young age, right? Reputation became his first camouflage.
Yep.
And this is handed to him by his parents. Every time they swept something under the rug, they weren't just avoiding embarrassment. They were probably inadvertently, but they're teaching him that respectability itself could be a shield, right? The veneer of it. And he learned early that appearances don't just hide instability, they protect it, right?
I think every middle-class family is taught that, in a way. We have to keep up appearances. That was kind of the way it was in my family. We didn't talk about stuff.
Are you Hyacinth Bucket?
I am not Hyacinth Bucket.
Keeping up appearances.
What an oddly obscure reference. Anyway, at North Central High School, Herbert's inability to fit in became even more apparent. The school prized athletic prowess and popularity, but Herb was bookish and awkward, unable to find a niche. Quote, "He just didn't blend in," Donovan remembered. "He withdrew to himself and spent many hours alone," end quote. When it came to dating, Herb reportedly showed, quote, "zero interest. I never saw him date," Donovan said. He was usually a solitary figure, someone who, even in a crowd, seemed off in his own world. Herb's struggle to belong continued into his young adult years. At college, he drifted from campus to campus, never earning a degree. Whether at home or school, Herb was known for his eccentric and sometimes alarming habits. Future co-workers and classmates described him as a young man obsessed with how others perceived him, yet unable to adjust his behavior to earn the acceptance he craved. At his first job as a teenage copy boy for the Indianapolis Star, those around him noted that he was, quote, sensitive as to the way he was viewed and treated by the higher-ups. He obsessively wanted to be somebody, according to Gary Donna, an advertising executive at the paper. But nothing seemed to help Herb Baumeister truly connect with those around him.
You know, I never trust people who only want to be somebody. Tell me what you're going to do.
Okay.
What value are you going to add to your profession or to the world?
Mm-hmm.
I've met people like this over and over again. I was thinking about this, Mike. I'm like so old now that I don't mean to do it on purpose, but I meet somebody, I kind of do this scan, and like in my head pops up like four people, like four types that I've met before in life, right? And then I look for the differences, but there are types, right? But I've met these people over and over again. They chase status, the reputation, but they skip the work, the actual bridge that gets them there. And when status becomes your goal without any real connection, it sort of warps into something else. And people like that, life starts turning into a scoreboard, and any slight or every dismissal gets tallied of proof of injustices to them, right? And their bitterness spills out. I've seen this over and over and over again.
You become resentful, and yeah. That's an interesting way of looking at things. I'm curious about I know you first thought I owned a patinery, but that's because you but I'm curious what four people you saw with me at first, and have I actually surprised you in any way?
I saw a little bit of my brother.
Okay. All right.
Right. And I can't think of like immediately.
Sure.
No. I think I thought you'd have a better sense of humor.
I apologize for that. Back to our case. Herb's behavior only grew stranger and more troubling. In his 20s, while working for the Bureau of Motor Vehicles in Indiana, a job thought to have been arranged by his father, Baumeister's outbursts became office legend. Former co-workers remembered him ranting about provocation and, in one bizarre event, urinating on his boss's desk. Quote, "It was no secret around the office who the culprit was," wrote Weinstein and Wilson, but Herb somehow managed to avoid being fired until he urinated on a letter addressed to the governor of Indiana. End quote. This odd and gross misconduct was just another mark of the deeply ingrained behavioral problems that went largely unaddressed. Oh dear. Herb Baumeister and Juliana Julie Sater met through a mutual friend in Indianapolis. At the time, Julie was a young college graduate working as a high school journalism teacher, while Herb was already showing signs of being an outsider with unorthodox tendencies, like peeing on a letter to the governor. Their introduction was unremarkable, but they quickly found common ground in their shared values. Both were active young Republicans, and both harbored ambitions of someday running a business together. In the beginning, the relationship seemed promising. Julie was drawn to Herb's tall build, fair hair, and youthful features, and early in their conversations, they realized they had a lot in common. During their courtship, Julie saw in Herb a driven, if slightly eccentric partner, and she felt aligned with his vision for the future. Family and friends later recalled that Julie approached the relationship earnestly, focusing on the positive and rationalizing Herb's odd habits as mere quirks. Their time together before marriage was marked more by planning, discussing dreams, careers, and the idea of raising a family than by passion or romance. On November 6, 1971, Herb married Julie at a Methodist church in Indianapolis. Julie brought her own set of dreams to the partnership. She was educated, energetic, and hopeful. But even early on, things were strange with Herb. There was emotional distance and a distinct lack of physical intimacy. Julie later told investigators, quote, "On our wedding night, we did not have sex. He took magazines to read, and we did not have sex." End quote. Intimacy was rare and awkward. Julie described that she never saw her husband nude, joking, quote, "If he has a birthmark, I don't know it, end quote. Julie later explained that Herb treated sex like a formality, only engaging in it to conceive children. Quote, he was not very communicative. She described their sex life as relatively non-existent other than the fact that they had children, said former prosecuting attorney Sonia Learcamp about Julie's description of Herb. Herb would dress and undress out of sight, and there was never affectionate connection. Julie rationalized these red flags and threw herself into supporting the family and building their business. In spite of their physical difficulties, Herb and Julie had 3 children, Marie, Eric, and Emily. Quote, whenever they disagreed about what should be done with respect to a particular matter, Herb would basically take over the conversation, said John Egloff, their lawyer, describing the quiet dominance that shaped their household. They were fighting a lot, and in early 1991, Herb moved out and even filed for divorce, but the two reconciled just months later and made a pivotal decision. They purchased Fox Hollow Farm. The move, intended as a fresh start for the family, brought no peace. With the purchase of Fox Hollow Farm and the opening of their store, Save-A-Lot Thrift, began a rare chapter of apparent stability. Their thrift store agreement with the Children's Bureau of Indianapolis meant that their business didn't simply turn a profit, its success was linked to local philanthropy. The store's model, selling donated goods on consignment and sharing revenue with the charity, made Herb and Julie respected partners in the city's charitable scene. The first year brought in $50,000, a significant sum for a new family business in late 1980s Indiana. This legitimacy offered Herb fresh social capital, allowing him a way back into community life that had eluded him for years. He started appearing at charity events, shaking hands, and playing the role of local entrepreneur. Still, behind the store's tidy shelves and the positive press write-ups, Herb's compulsive, chaotic energy crept through. Except this affair involves murdering dozens of people. Julie Baumeister later told investigators and writers that her marriage to Herb was not just lacking in physical closeness, but was also emotionally distant. As we mentioned, she noted that she never saw Herb undressed, as he always changed in the bathroom and wore pajamas to bed. Detective Vandegrift remarked, quote, that should have been a tip-off to Julie that something was wrong, end quote. Yet Julie stayed committed to the relationship, with Vandegrift adding, quote, I think deep inside she chose not to see the signals, end quote. Although she was ultimately a kind of victim herself, Julie's loyalty, sometimes to the point of denial, gave Herb more room to withdraw and maintain his hidden life.
Love often disguises itself as loyalty, but in practice, it really does function as denial. And I think, that denial kind of becomes the oxygen that killers breathe, right? And I don't think she was bordering on denial. I think she was full on denial, and it gave him a lot of oxygen, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody can do this much damage without a lot of people around him in full denial.
We'll talk more about it later. I think you mentioned Julie again further on. Professionally, Herb continued strange attention-seeking patterns. Co-workers at both of the Save-A-Lot stores spoke of his wild and sometimes menacing mood swings. He alternated between bursts of false charm and hours of absence. Rumors circulated that he drank heavily on the job. He generated bizarre holiday cards for employees, one, infamously, a photo of himself and another man in drag, which left people profoundly uncomfortable. His lack of boundaries only grew as his grip on both stores and domestic life weakened. All the while, outward appearances held. The Baumeisters attended church sporadically, and their children were active in local youth groups. But the strain of business failure seeped into every aspect of daily life, amplifying Herb's volatility. Herb's absences became so frequent and unexplained that staff began to question how involved he was in the store. But if they challenged him, Herb fired them. Employees remembered his work habits as erratic at best. Quote, he demanded grueling work and unfair attention from them, acting as if he were some sort of king who deserved the peons' praise. The once orderly appearance of both stores began to slide, cluttered with garbage bags, mannequins, and poorly managed inventory. Quote, everywhere you looked, there were mountains of garbage bags. It was like working in a garbage heap, recalled another employee.
Just looking at this guy, right? It wasn't about building something real. It was about faking it. You can see this charity angle gave this guy this bored respectability. you can tell that he saw it only as an opportunity for himself and not for like the kids that the charity gave to, right?
Not to do something for society, yeah.
When the shelves started to slide into chaos, it exposed the truth. He didn't believe in the work at all. He just wanted this reputation of a respectable man and not the grind of becoming one or knowing how to manage people to run a proper store, right?
Yeah.
This guy really was quite useless at every level. Like, he really was. He's a waste of space, man.
Quite useless at being a real human being.
Yeah, just like, wow. Like, he may have had that house, but he's a failure.
Yeah. Financial tensions increased by 1994 as receipts dwindled and the Children's Bureau considered terminating its partnership. These business setbacks pushed the already fraught household to the brink. The growing chaos inside the business mirrored the fractures at home. Herb and Julie's marriage, never conventionally happy, was now under constant strain. Communication nearly broke down, arguments became routine. Julie started to think about leaving. At Fox Hollow Farm, the American dream property into which they'd sunk their money and self-respect, the cracks in the Baumeisters' private life grew wider. The grand home became unkempt. Its 18 acres, once meticulously kept, were now overgrown. Friends and business partners who entered the estate described the atmosphere as tense, the rooms cluttered and disorderly. The pool room was especially weird, with Herb's mannequins everywhere. It was unsettling to some. There were so many of them, in various states of dress and undress, they appeared to be having some sort of party that only Herb was invited to. According to former attorney John Egloff, there was a, quote, climate of tension in the house that matched the couple's strained relationship. Quote, Julie deferred to Herb, but she wasn't very happy about it, he said. Julie, in efforts to shield herself and their children from Herb's rages and unpredictability, often spent weeks at her mother-in-law's condominium in Wawasee, sometimes leaving Herb alone at the estate for long stretches, especially in the summer. Years after the fact, forensic teams matched dates of victims' disappearances to the times that Julie and the children were away, a chilling connection that underscored how complete Herb's double life had become.
Yeah, and that's kind of the strange thing, the murder wasn't just opportunistic here, it was scheduled. Mm-hmm. He folded all these murders neatly into this calendar of family absences,
It's like a person having an affair on a spouse. Except this secret involves the murder of a couple dozen people. In 1995, the Children's Bureau canceled its contract, accelerating the collapse of his new identity as a successful businessman. Fox Hollow Farm, once a grand, stately Tudor house, filled with clutter, and the grounds were overgrown, evoking an atmosphere thick with tension. Julie and the children cope by seeking refuge with relatives for weeks at a time, often leaving Herb alone at Fox Hollow Farm to do as he pleased. More after a quick break. And we are back. Matthew, thoughts?
Yeah, I think what's remarkable is how little effort it really took. The house was unkempt, right? It was weird. Mm-hmm. The stores were a mess. He was cruel to staff and family. And still, the reputation held that nobody was looking at him saying, what are you up to?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that tells you something about how communities work, right? People cling to the surface of a story. The businessman, the big house, goes to church.
Right, goes to church. He's a good church-going guy.
All this stuff, right? So even when evidence of rot is right in front of them, they're not seeing it because they're just seeing all this fake stuff. And it's so prevalent in society. Respectability didn't require him to keep things in order. It only required others to keep looking away because he was so disorderly and nobody looked at him though. Right? No. He barely even tried to keep a veneer of respectability up.
Yeah. He didn't do a very good job of it, no. But this is hindsight, right? Behind Herb Baumeister's facade of domestic drama and failing business, something darker stirred. Neighbors who observed the odd, tense household saw only fragments of the truth. Acquaintances noticed Herb's withdrawal and Julie's anxious demeanor, but chalked it up to stress. But the reality was that beneath the financial ruin and marital discord, Herb Baumeister harbored secrets that were far more ominous. Employees at the thrift stores, unsettled by his erratic presence and cruel outbursts, sensed a, quote, dangerous energy, and Julie herself remembered periods when Herb was, quote, mean to people, especially in private. This was the tipping point. The Save-A-Lot venture that had given Herb a measure of status now exposed his instability. His once promising marriage highlighted his double life, and the imposing Fox Hollow Farm with its remote expanse and cluttered rooms became the stage for something dreadful to surface. Quoting Detective Virgil Vandegrift, quote, "The danger signals are always there in people of Baumeister's caliber. The trouble is, the public ignores them. In Baumeister's case, even his wife ignored them. Lethargy. It's the serial killer's greatest strength." End quote. But things had started years earlier. Men began vanishing from Indianapolis in the late 1980s and into the early 1990s, a troubling pattern that quietly unsettled the city's gay community. Most victims were young men who frequented the local gay bars, places like Brothers, the Varsity Lounge, and the 501 Club. Many were last seen socializing late into the night before seemingly disappearing without a trace. Among those later linked to Herb Baumeister's crimes were men like Roger Allen Goodlett, Jeff Jones, Alan Broussard, Manuel Resendez, Alan Livingston, and Daniel Thomas Halloran, each fitting a chilling profile. White males, generally between their early 20s and mid-30s, some with histories of addiction or social difficulties, all known to be gay or presumed so by investigators and families. Victims' families immediately felt the loss. Mothers like Mrs. Broussard and Mrs. Goodlett refused to accept that their sons had run off, and they began personal searches that included hiring private investigators. Detective Virgil Vandegrift recalled one such meeting, quote, "The fates of these three men were too close to ignore." Roger Allen Goodlett's mother, quote, "wept as she told him about Roger's trusting nature and his tendency to drink too much, and all the vulnerabilities that left Roger exposed and alone on the streets. Vandegrift's conversation with Mrs. Goodlett was emotionally charged and underscored the depth of grief and worry felt by families whose sons went missing in the Baumeister case. As well as the men going missing later connected to Herb Baumeister and Fox Hollow Farm, there were also other bodies turning up. These were later attributed to a killer dubbed by the press the I-70 Strangler, because the bodies of his victims were consistently discovered along Interstate 70 in Indiana and Ohio, with each victim having been strangled and dumped in rivers, ditches, or fields near this major highway. The victim type was chillingly the same as the other missing men. They were all young, often teenagers, some in their early 20s, who started going missing after nights out at popular downtown bars such as the Varsity Lounge, the 501 Tavern, and the Metro. For families and friends, the sudden silences were terrifying. Many vanished after telling loved ones they would be home late, or after being observed climbing into vehicles with strangers outside these clubs. The profiles were strikingly similar. White males, typically between 15 and 25, some living on society's margins, several known to offer companionship for money, all seeking acceptance in places that welcomed them when much of Indiana would not. At first, suspicions and rumors circulated almost exclusively among the bar owners and patrons themselves. Quote, "By the time you got to the point where you'd say, 'I haven't seen him since 2 weeks ago at the Metro,' they were already dead," said one local publisher. Bar owners pressured those who chronicled community life to, quote, "find out what was going on and get this fixed," end quote. They were worried about the impact on their regular crowd and business. Yet outside these circles, little attention was paid. Most missing men were presumed to have moved to larger cities like San Francisco or New York, where being gay wasn't seen as a cause for ridicule or shame. The handling of these disappearances by authorities did little to reassure those left behind. In many cases, parents and friends struggled to file missing persons reports, sometimes encountering bureaucratic hurdles and skepticism. One mother was unable to report her son missing for 8 months because she herself was hospitalized. In other cases, friends were ignored or brushed aside. Law enforcement's dismissive explanations only deepened the pain. Quote, "Common belief was that the victims might simply have gone on to other, larger, more glitzy towns," reported one investigation. The absence of urgency meant that crucial time and evidence slipped away, and the stories of these men gradually faded from the headlines and bar conversations, but not from the minds of their families, who wondered what had happened to them. Many officers believed the families themselves to be the true sufferers, abandoned without notice by their sons rather than victims of foul play.
Yeah, and serial killers don't just exploit people, they often exploit the hierarchies of those lives, whose lives are protected and whose aren't, right? And again, when the victims are gay men, the same script plays out.
Right.
Police call it voluntary. Families are dismissed. Evidence goes stale. And it's not just neglect. It's a structure that signals to predators which lives can be taken without consequence. And that's why these murders keep recurring across decades and across cities, right? The killer counts on the silence of institutions as much as his own cunning. And he counts on ingrained homophobia. I mean, imagine this was like, and I'm just going to use a bad example. Imagine we're talking about in each of these cases, it was like a white blonde woman.
Right.
London, Dennis Nilsson, 12 people. Chicago, Larry Eller, 21. New Orleans, Ronald Dominic, 23. Milwaukee, Dahmer, 17. Houston, Dean Corll, 28. The list goes on and on and on and on, all the way up to Bruce MacArthur, Toronto. At least 8 people. And
at least 8, yeah.
The chief of police scoffed like 2 days before he was arrested as a serial killer that there was no serial killer. Something is wrong. Like when gay men start going missing in those numbers, and it just keeps happening. And, Mike, I'd never heard of this guy. This what we're doing right now. I've never heard about this.
Right.
Why didn't I hear about it? Probably because he didn't eat them. So it wasn't special enough.
It is pretty crazy. It is a pretty crazy story, as we'll see. But, yeah. But I see what you're driving at. And before anybody chimes in and decides to burn us down on social media about other populations being targeted by serial killers.
This episode is about this one.
That's right. Yeah. This is about this particular.
We have many other episodes with many other ones. It's
That's
not a
right.
contest, right?
That's right. The I-70 killer's victims were men and boys whose lives ended in lonely ditches, creeks, and fields across Indiana and Ohio. The horror began with Michael Petrie, only 15, who was found naked in Hamilton County in June 1980. Although he was so young, he often spent nights around Indianapolis's gay bars. He vanished on June 7th, and for days afterward, witnesses spotted him riding in a stranger's car before he was found strangled. No drugs, no alcohol in his system. Next was Maurice Taylor, 23, whose topless body was recovered from Weasel Creek in July 1982. Taylor struggled to get by, living in a boiler room in Indianapolis, exchanging sex for survival. He remained John Doe for months because his mother, hospitalized with mental illness, couldn't report him missing. Though the cause of death couldn't be confirmed, police believed he was strangled. Delvoyd Lee Baker was just 14, an 8th grader, last seen downtown in Indianapolis on the night of October 2nd, 1982. He boarded a blue van with a stranger. He told his parents he planned to go see a movie, but he had no money with him. It emerged that Baker and a teenage friend had been selling sex to support themselves, earning $20 a night. He was found semi-nude near a river, the youngest and only black victim in this series. On May 28, 1983, 22-year-old Michael Andrew Riley disappeared after leaving an Indianapolis nightclub. Witnesses saw him depart with an unfamiliar man. Riley's naked body appeared a week later in a Hancock County ditch, autopsy pointing to strangulation, likely with a towel. In May 1985, 17-year-old Eric Allen Retger went missing, his shirtless body showing rope marks when found in Preble County, Ohio. He'd been offered a ride instead of waiting for a bus. Rutger had friends tied to drugs, but family denied any connection to the gay community. He bore a burn mark on his shoulder. Strangulation was the cause of death. Michael Allen Glenn, 29, was discovered in his underwear in an Ohio ditch in August 1986. Living alone in a trailer on Indy's outskirts and working as a handyman, Glenn's exact disappearance date is unknown. Rope marks around his neck revealed his killer's signature. He wasn't identified until 3 years later thanks to fingerprints. James Robinson, 21, went out on October 15, 1987, after leaving his mother's Indianapolis home. 2 days later, his naked, strangled body lay in a ditch near I-70. Witnesses gave police conflicting car descriptions near the scene. Some saw a red Jeep Wrangler, others a Chevy Blazer. John Paul Talbot, 26, met death in May 1989, strangled and left by a Defiance County, Ohio stream. Stephen L. Elliott's body, 26, clad in only underwear, was found in August that year in Preble County, Ohio, again near I-70. He'd left his family after coming out, turning to prostitution and alcohol. Rope likely ended his life. Clay Russell Boatman, 32, disappeared in August 1990 after heading to a local gay bar. The nurse's body was found strangled in a ditch. His family denied he was gay. Thomas Clevenger Jr., 19, vanished the same month. His semi-nude body was discovered along railroad tracks. Clevenger's troubled past included crime and intellectual disability, and he'd taken up prostitution near gay bars for cash. The oldest victim, Otto Gary Becker, 42, was found along Henry County Road in October 1991. Witnesses saw him fighting in a car with 2 men, but detectives failed to find a match when they showed photographs of known criminals. These cases remain unsolved. However, Herb Baumeister is widely considered by investigators as the prime suspect in the I-70 Strangler murders. The killings along I-70 stopped around 1991, which lines up with when Baumeister bought Fox Hollow Farm and began burning and burying bodies there. Law enforcement named him as the likely perpetrator after his suicide, and witnesses connected him to some of the I-70 victims. Still, no physical evidence has conclusively proven Baumeister was the I-70 strangler, and the case remains officially unsolved, with some in the community doubting his sole involvement.
And the sad thing is, many probably won't be.
Yeah, these cases are probably never going to be solved because physical evidence is gone, and so is Herb.
You know, murders of gay men are disproportionately unsolved. If you're a gay man and you get murdered, it is much more unlikely that your murderer will be found and brought to justice if you're somebody else. Fact.
Sad fact, yeah. Of Herb's known victims, Alan Lee Livingston was later definitively linked through DNA in 2023, years after his remains were discovered among those at Fox Hollow Farm. He went missing on August 6, 1993. Alan Lee Livingston was born on August 26, 1965 in Indianapolis, Indiana. He grew up in a close-knit family, sharing a powerful bond with his sister, Shannon Doty, and his cousin, Eric Pranger. Alan attended Perry Meridian High School, where friends recall him as quiet, kind-hearted, and loyal. He remained rooted in Indianapolis throughout his youth and into adulthood, maintaining regular contact with family members, including his mother, Sharon Livingston, who played a key role in his life. Alan spent much of his 20s immersed in the city's culture. By 1993, at age 27, his world revolved around familiar haunts and the gay bars that made up Indianapolis's nightlife. These venues, such as the 501 Tavern and the Metro, provided Alan with both community and connection during an era when acceptance was not always easy to find. Those who knew him described him as genuine, friendly, and easy to talk to, a man who could often be found catching up with acquaintances and new faces alike. He was a constant presence in the city, moving through its rhythms quietly, never straying far from the people and places that mattered to him. Despite the growing anxieties within Indianapolis's LGBTQ+ community in the early 1990s, where rumors were spreading about men vanishing after nights out, Alan continued to live a life marked by hope and everyday routines. He stayed close to his family, checking in, sharing candid conversations, and maintaining the trusting relationships that he valued. Leading up to August 1993, Alan was living out the height of summer, seeing friends, enjoying the city's familiar gathering spots, and always making time for loved ones. His life was built on connection, warmth, and a longing for stability in a world not always built to provide it. The next man to go missing and definitively linked to Herb Baumeister through forensic identification was Manuel Resendez. Before he vanished, Manuel Resendez was known for his infectious personality and unwavering support for his family. Living in Indianapolis, He was surrounded by loved ones, including his devoted sister Janie Brock, who recounted that Manuel was a lot of things to a lot of people. He took care of me. He had jokes for days. None of them made sense, and he thought they were the funniest, and I never got any of them. Manuel found community and friendship in Indianapolis's gay scene, where he felt a sense of belonging that was rare in the early 1990s. On August 7, 1993, Manuel told his mother he planned to have a few drinks with friends at a local gay bar, a routine night out among familiar faces. Manuel's warmth and his knack for lifting others' spirits made him well-liked. He was genuine in his relationships, never hesitating to help or comfort those around him. Despite the growing unease in the city about men disappearing from these circles, Manuel lived his life with openness, compassion, and hope for the future. After he disappeared, his family and friends mobilized, searching bars, dumpsters, and ditches, speaking to anyone who might know where he'd gone. His sister recalled how, "We were scared." Some of Manuel's friends and family went looking in dumpsters and ditches and stuff like that, and I was talking to whoever would talk to me. Decades later, closure came in the form of advanced forensic work. In early 2024, investigators matched remains recovered at Fox Hollow Farm to Manuel with the help of DNA from a family reference sample, finally confirming what loved ones had feared for years. The identification brought Manuel's story back into the public eye, allowing his family and friends to honor his life and the bond he shared with them after so many years of uncertainty. We're now at a turning point in this story. The names of Alan Lee Livingston and Manuel Resendez are only the beginning. Their disappearances marked the start of a devastating series of crimes, but many others vanished into the silence of Fox Hollow Farm. The other identified victims, Jeffrey Allen Jones, Roger Allen Goodlett, Michael Frederick Kieran, Stephen Sperlin Hale, Richard Douglas Hamilton Jr., Johnny Bayer, Alan Wayne Broussard, and Daniel Thomas Halloran, as well as all those still unknown, each had their own lives, families, and dreams. Each became a part of this dark chapter as investigators tried to piece together what had happened.
Yeah, and I think what's overwhelming isn't just the number of names. It's you've gone through all these names. It's the weight of the ones we'll never know. Right. Each fragment of bone, each life is reduced to evidence tags, right? Mm-hmm. It's a reminder of how silence can be lethal, right? And when whole communities are treated as expendable and the missing start piling up and the record of who they were begins to vanish around them, like that's the tragedy here. Not just the cruelty of one man, but the scale of erasure of lives.
It's bonkers. In the next episode of this series, we'll focus on these men, telling what is known about them in their final days and the impact on loved ones left behind. We'll then follow the investigation as police efforts intensify, zeroing in on Baumeister amid growing horrific evidence, and ultimately trace Herb's desperate flight from justice and final days that ended here in Canada. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 385, All That Remains, Horror at Fox Hollow Farm, Part 1.
That's right. It's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week.
Alrighty, here's some voicemails. We've got two.
Hey guys, it's Riker calling from the NWT. I was just listening to your guys' episode on the gay purge, and I found it so cool that you mentioned I can't remember his name, the man from Pine Point who was wrongfully imprisoned for all those years. Even after the queer legislation, I lived a couple hundred kilometers, about 150 kilometers away from there, and I know people from Pine Point, even though people don't really live there now. So I really found that cool that you all included that, since it's the NWT often is a little bit forgotten about. But yeah, as a queer young person, I'm always wanting to learn more of the history and stuff like that. As a gay trans man, it's been like a really cool journey to learn, and just wanting to really stand up for my community. And I do a lot of very active things. I planned my first Pride Festival at 17, and I just had my second one this year. and it's been a lot of fun and it's been a lot of work. But yeah, I really appreciate your guys' podcast. It's a huge part of my day-to-day when I'm working. It just pop you guys on in the background, and I just kind of putter away at what I'm doing. So, but yeah, thank you guys for being awesome and being very respectful in all of your episodes and cases. I really appreciate you guys making me laugh. And yeah, go shit in your hats. Have a good one.
Hello. Nice.
Yeah. From the NWT, someone way up in the NWT, which is kind of interesting, Northwest Territories.
Is that different than NWA?
Yes. And we're not going to say what NWA is supposed to stand for.
It's the name of a band, isn't it?
Nice Men with Attitudes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I was just thinking.
You were thinking?
Over 50 years ago, one of my favorite characters was created in novels, and her name was Anna Madrigal.
I saw you post about Anna Madrigal today.
I just put that name on there just because I wanted to think of this. She like that character's been in my head for 50 years. And spoiler alert, if you haven't read Tales of the City or watched the series, here's a spoiler alert. Stop now. Fast forward for 2 minutes. She's a trans woman in the show.
Okay.
I've known trans people all my life, right? And like some of my favorite characters. So all of this like bullshit that's going on, trying to hurt people and put them down, it's so foreign to me. Like everyone thinks this is this new thing. It's like wonderful trans people have been around you all of your life, right? It's just so weird.
Stonewall was mainly begun by trans people, right?
Sorry, just to jump on that. I just with the caller calling in, it was just top of mind last night. Of just, it's just when I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me being me, but I've always had trans friends, right? And all of like the weird friggin' back. I don't know why right now, but all that weird backlash. It's just like I'm kind of like. It took me a while, like, yeah, people are dicks, but it just took me a while to kind of go, oh, I guess not everybody kind of has known trans people all their lives or something. Or didn't realize they do, or...
I saw an interesting...
I think my point is just let people just meet people and be good be good to people. Jesus Christ! Like
how hard is that?
Matthew's message of the day. Just like,
meet
other human beings and like lower your guard and like just talk to people, and you realize everyone's just friggin' normal,
true.
Or as screwed up as everybody else. one or the other. Like you're not normal.
So I saw this like Instagram reel today,
right?
And it was a woman, I presume, a woman talking about people's reaction to trans people and how some people are saying, well, it's a mental illness, and they're cruel to people who they say have a mental illness. So if your grandma was schizophrenic or suicidal or something, you wouldn't be cruel to her.
Let's be cruel. But
yeah,
first of all,
it's not about that. It's about you justifying being an asshole. Is true. Essentially what this woman said.
You know, I actually feel bad for people who are so close-minded that they don't get to experience so much goodness in life. I actually feel bad for racists and homophobes in a way. It's like what? It's like if you could just like take off this crap that somebody's given to you and just be a good person and realize like there's like a lot of fascinating people out there. But it just limits their lives so much. I really feel bad for them. They all need They all need therapy, dude.
They need something. They need Jesus. They need the guy they claim.
They need therapy.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for calling and continue listening. And we'll do more of those kind of episodes for sure. This is kind of one of them. This series.
What if we called racism a mental health crisis in our country?
It is. It absolutely is.
A mental health crisis.
Absolutely, right? It is.
Anyway.
Let's move on from this.
Jeez. Sorry,
Anyway.
I got on a tangent there.
Well,
that was a really nice voicemail, and I'm glad at least one of us makes you laugh.
So what yeah, it's you. So what does what does that person do for a living in the NWT, Matthew?
Music producer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
A particular type of music, or is it eclectic?
NWT music.
Okay. Okay. Whatever that means. Whatever that entails. All right, and let's move on to another voicemail.
Hi, Matthew and Mike. I'm calling from beautiful British Columbia in the Okanagan Valley, where the temperature is scorching today. I just finished listening to your Picto Sadist show. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Very, very sad about the Indigenous people in our world, in our country. Anyway, I just recently listened to the Lily and Jack Sullivan podcast on Nighttime, the Nighttime podcast, and they referred to an article in the Globe and Mail about the story of Lily and Jack Sullivan. And I was just wondering if you guys wanted to follow up on that at all. It was really, really interesting. Super good. They were followed and covered really well. Anyway, I love you guys. I love your show. I think it's just great. Been following you for ages and ages. Don't guess what I am because I'm just retired. I'm just a retired woman who's canning peaches and tomatoes in the hot sun. So that's it. Go have a shit in your hat, and love you guys. Bye for
Well,
now.
thank you.
I want to be just a retired woman canning peaches in the sun.
Well, I've been around canning. I haven't done it, but I've been around it. It is, yeah.
She has a great
Anyway.
voice. I liked her voice.
I did too. Very smoky. She had a
It's a
smoky
good voice. She could do radio.
She should do a podcast. So regarding Lily and Jack Sullivan, I have been following that case. I've been following what Jordan is saying on Nighttime as well. And there's a lot of other podcasts that, frankly, are covering that story in a way that is disgusting.
Is this something on the news? You know, I don't read the news.
Matthew doesn't read the news, so he probably doesn't even know what we're talking about. So
No.
there, a 4-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl went missing in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that that was a while ago. And it's still
like
going on.
over
Okay.
3 months ago.
Okay,
They're
okay,
still missing,
okay,
100%,
okay.
like 0
That's
evidence about where they are.
That's
There's, yeah, but people will say, oh, they found a piece of a blanket, they found a footprint, all that kind of stuff. They have no idea where these kids are. So the RCMP, because of all the crappy speculation that people are doing, pointing fingers at family and saying the mother and the stepfather are responsible for murdering these children. Mm-hmm. The RCMP did a deep dive, which is, I'm glad they do. Mm-hmm. They did a deep dive into this, looked forensically at a lot of different things, including electronics, security videos like Ring camera, like all of those kind of things. Still no evidence that these parents had anything to do with these kids going missing. Mm-hmm. There's no evidence of it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of speculation online has been horrible, saying lock them up, throw away the key, all this kind of stuff. When you have zero evidence, this is why I haven't talked about the case. This is why, because there's
no evidence yet.
There's nothing to talk about other than these poor little kids go missing.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And the woods around there are crazy deep and tangled and hard to navigate for adults. So a little kid can get into places that adults can't. And maybe they've fallen down a well or a mine or something like that. And, you know, they're deceased in the woods. But people love to just come up with crazy theories. It's why I try not to address too much unsolved on the show, because I don't want to add to that conversation. I don't want people to be speculating on words that I have said We had it one time with another episode that I covered. Michaela Bawley was someone who we covered years ago, going missing. And it's an unsolved case. And we said some things on the show that people presumed we knew where she was. And her father reached out to me. Her father reached out to me and said, Mike, if you know where she is, I would love to know. Just let me. And it was heartbreaking to me. I cried after that because of course I didn't know where she was. Of course I don't.
If we knew where people were, we'd have a much bigger show.
We'd have a much bigger show because we'd be solving a lot of unsolved cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so anyway, that case really turned me off of doing anything unsolved. There are so many great cases that need coverage here in Canada, and I'm leaning back toward doing some more unsolved, but I need to do it in a way where we cover it with facts. These are the facts and no speculation.
The thing is, we're not investigative journalists, right?
No.
So sometimes you get an investigative journalist that has the budgets and the contacts and actually can figure stuff out, but not necessarily say it yet. But we're two schlubs with a little bit of research on our hands.
I do a lot of research. I do
a
lot.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. But we're not. I'm not talking like you're not meeting people in car parks and getting past secret documents,
like deep throat kind
right?
of thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm saying we're not like investigative journalists.
No, and
right?
you say that. That's why we added that thing at the beginning of the show. You don't hear it, but everybody else does. About we're not investigative journalists, and what we say on the show is just opinion, and it is not to be. It's not to be taken as gospel. But I don't know. I am just really unhappy sometimes with the true crime community in the way we behave. It is not good. I've watched people get shamed out of this. Another great podcaster. Who shall remain nameless, was a nice person. She was lovely, got involved, had some opinions, and was just burned down, and just drummed right out of this. She couldn't do it anymore. So anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant about that. All right, let's look at PayPal.
If you want to take out any of that stuff about trans people, I was saying, go ahead. I don't.
Are you uncomfortable with anything you said?
No, I don't think so. I just don't know why. Just because a trans person called in, I went on a little bit of a thing. But
okay, if you it
just
didn't
listen
sound
to it. If it sounds authentic and me not just jumping on it because a trans person called in, just to be supportive, let me just change it if you need to. Okay.
Okay, I will.
Not that I'll know because I don't listen.
That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome. It's time for Patreon and Donut Money donors. We do have a new patron, and that person's name is Bronwyn Cohen, and Bronwyn is from Pinedale, Wyoming. Pinedale, Wyoming, in the United States of America. Thank you so much, Bronwyn Cohen.
Pinedale,
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
Is Wyoming's one of the ones that's sort of kind of like this way? Isn't it? It's sort of like, is that like beside Oregon?
Wyoming?
Yeah. Where's Wyoming?
No.
Okay. I'm not, other than sort of the ones on the water, don't know the states where they're placed very well.
Wyoming is kind of, it's between Idaho, Utah, Colorado, South Dakota, and Montana.
Oh, I said Colorado. I was right.
You said
Or
Oregon.
did I say Oregon? Sorry.
You said Oregon.
I've even been to Colorado.
Oh, well. So, yeah, Wyoming. The only reason I know where Wyoming is because of Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
Okay.
That was in Close Encounters. And Pinedale looks like it is, the population was 2,005 in the 2020 census. So it's a tiny place.
Okay. So
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn owns a restaurant
Okay.
in this small town called the Naughty Pine.
Okay. That's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's naughty spelt as in N-A-U-G-H-T-Y.
No, Knotty.
Oh, darn. I was thinking it's like naughty.
And I think their specialty is, remember Denver omelets?
Yes.
And Reuben sandwiches. It's that sort of place that we all love. You know those places?
I love me a good Reuben.
You get a Reuben or a Denver omelet, right? And sort of like pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
And there's a waitress that's been working at the Naughty Pine for like 47 years.
47 years, yeah.
Right.
She's been there a long time.
And she doesn't take any crap from anyone.
She has no teeth.
But no, she has teeth, but like deep down, like she doesn't take any crap, but she's actually a really nice person. But she just sort of like slings the stuff onto the table, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's a good deal at the Naughty Pine. It's they keep prices low.
Yep.
For the local community, and they also have like a bus tour of old folks that come every year. They go on this bus tour, and they stop at the Naughty Pine in Pinedale, and they've been doing this for a decade.
Wow.
Just so you know.
That's really cool. Well, thank you, Bronwyn. And if I ever get to Pinedale, I'm going to go to the Naughty Pine and hope that it's naughty. Not like naughty, like naughty.
Naughty.
As far as Donut Money donors, we have a Donut Money donor this month. And it is our friend again, Jennifer Hesse, saying, just celebrating my birthday with a little dark poutine. Thanks for bringing these stories to life for so long. Jennifer, what are you doing, Jen? She's very kind to us.
She is.
So Jen is still waiting on hearing what's what as far as career goes. So when she has a new career, we'll give her one. Thank you, Jen. Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors, past and present, for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal or interact using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my 2 books are available to order via links on the Dark Poutine website or anywhere fine books are sold. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you gave Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing. And that's it for this episode of Dark Poutine. So until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple.
Bye.